Get her out of my sight! She's pregnant and she looks terrible! I don't come here to see this! Remove her, now!
He was standing in the middle of that bar, pointing at me, screaming at the top of his lungs. Get her out of my sight, she's pregnant and she looks terrible. I don't come here to see this. Remove her now. Every single person in that room heard him. The bartenders, the waiters, the other customers, everyone froze, and I just gripped my mop handle a little tighter, kept my head down and stared at the floor. Because his baby was kicking inside me at that exact moment. And he had absolutely no idea who I was. My name is Elena, and I have never told anyone this story completely, not because I was ashamed, but because some pain runs so deep that you have to wait until you're strong enough to carry the words without breaking under them. I am strong enough now, so let me take you back to the beginning, to a small town, a library, and a love that someone decided was too inconvenient to let survive. I grew up in Millbrook. If you blink while driving through it, you miss it entirely. Small houses, one bakery, a church with a crooked steeple, and a library that smelled like old paper and wood polish. I loved that library. After my parents died in a car accident when I was 17, that library became my whole world. I would sit there for hours, not always reading, sometimes just existing in a place that felt safe and quiet. That is where I met Adrian. He was 20, studying on a scholarship, scribbling notes in the margins of an economics textbook like the book had personally offended him. I sat 2 tables away. He looked up once, just briefly, and went back to his notes. I went back to my book, that was all. But he came back the next day, and the day after that, and slowly, the way real things happen without any dramatic moment you can point to, we started talking. About books first, then about everything. He told me about his scholarship, about his dreams of building something real. I told him about my parents, about the loneliness that had settled into me like a permanent houseguest. He listened completely, like nothing I said was too small or too heavy. 3 months later, he brought me bread from the bakery down the street because he had noticed I never ate breakfast. He said very casually, like it was nothing, "You skip meals, I don't like it." And that was it. That was the moment I knew I loved him. We got married at 22. Father Carl officiated in that little church with the crooked steeple. 4 people attended: Pete from the library, Diana who lived next door, and 2 strangers who happened to be sitting in the pews and stayed out of curiosity. We laughed about that for weeks. Our apartment was tiny. The hot water worked only sometimes. We ate simple food and split every bill down the middle and argued about small things and made up quickly. It was not a perfect life, but it was ours, and it was full. I was the happiest I had ever been since my parents died. That happiness lasted exactly 6 months. It was a Tuesday. I had a fever, nothing serious, just one of those stubborn winter fevers that drain you completely. Adrian had gone out late to find a pharmacy that was still open. He kissed my forehead before he left and said he would be back in 20 minutes. I fell asleep waiting. I woke up to smoke. The hallway outside our apartment was already thick with it. Someone was screaming from another floor. I grabbed my phone, no signal, the tower was overloaded with emergency calls. I grabbed the door handle and pulled my hand back immediately, too hot. I went to the window. A neighbor from the floor below was on the fire escape, reaching up, calling my name. I climbed out. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the railing. I made it down 2 flights before my legs gave out. The neighbor caught me. I remember hitting the cold pavement. I remember seeing the building orange and roaring above me. And I remember thinking, Adrian is not inside. He went to the pharmacy. He is safe. I woke up in a hospital 2 days later. A nurse was standing at my bedside. Her face was arranged in that specific way that medical people arrange their faces when they are about to deliver something terrible. I knew before she opened her mouth. Mrs. Cole, your husband was found near the building. There was a collapsed section near the entrance. He was identified by his wallet. I am so sorry, he didn't make it. She placed a small evidence bag on the bed beside me. Inside it, a burned wallet, cracked leather, the edges black and curled, and through the melted plastic of the ID window, Adrian's face, his library card, the photo we had taken in that little booth outside the grocery store, laughing because the flash kept going off too early. I did not scream, I did not cry, I just picked up that bag and held it with both hands, and something inside me simply closed, like a door shutting in a house that will never be lived in again. 3 weeks later, I discovered I was pregnant. I left Millbrook because every corner had his fingerprints on it. The library, the bakery, the church with the crooked steeple. I could not breathe in a place so full of someone who was no longer there. So I moved, and when that city became too heavy, I moved again and again. working whatever jobs I could find, cashier, cleaner, kitchen helper. I was not building a life, I was just keeping myself alive long enough to bring my baby safely into the world. I ended up in the city 8 months pregnant, nearly out of money, renting a small room from a woman named Diana. Diana was small, sharp-tongued, made tea at exactly 7 every morning, and never asked uncomfortable questions. She was the first person in 5 years who felt like something close to home. It was Diana who pointed me toward Pete. Pete worked at a rooftop bar and told me the night janitor position had just opened. "The manager is decent," Pete said. "The customers are sometimes awful, but the pay is on time every single week." I took it. I needed 3 more weeks of income before the baby came. 3 weeks, that was all I was asking from the universe. The universe, as it turned out, had other plans. I had seen Adrian Cole 3 times before the night he screamed at me. The first time he walked past while I was mopping near the entrance. I noticed him the way you notice anyone tall and expensive looking, nothing more. The second time he sat in the VIP section while I cleaned around the far tables. I could hear him on a phone call, his voice clipped and cold. "That is not acceptable, do it again." The third time he knocked his glass off the table. I was nearby, our eyes almost met as I leaned down to pick up the pieces. He looked away first, took the glass from my hand without a word. I told myself the uneasy feeling in my chest was just tiredness. But the fourth time he came in on a Tuesday instead of his usual Thursday, drunk and furious about something I would only understand much later. The fourth time, he pointed at me in front of everyone and made sure every person in that room knew exactly how little I was worth to him. I walked to the back hallway after the manager told me to take my break. I pressed my back against the cold wall. I put both hands on my belly. The baby kicked, sharp and insistent, like she was reminding me she was there. "I know," I whispered. "I'm okay, we're okay." But my hands were shaking. That night Pete found me sitting on a supply crate in the hallway, not moving. He sat down beside me without being asked and shared his sandwich without offering it first, just broke it in half and put half in my lap. We sat in silence for a while. "That man," Pete said finally, "comes here every Thursday, sometimes Tuesdays when something goes wrong with his business. He was not always this bad. There is something eating him from the inside." I didn't say anything. "His name is Adrian Cole," Pete continued, casually, mouth full of sandwich. "The baby kicked again." I pressed my hand flat against my stomach and breathed very carefully. "Where is he from?" I asked. My voice came out steady. I was proud of that. "Nobody knows exactly," Pete said. "Appeared about 5 years ago, built his company fast. His mother is Gloria Cole, real elegant lady, comes in sometimes, cold as a January window." 5 years ago, I closed my eyes. "What does his mother look like?" I asked. Pete described her, tall, silver hair worn severely back, a way of looking at people like she was calculating their exact worth and finding it insufficient. Something moved through me that I did not have a name for yet, something old and cold and dangerous. It was a Thursday night, 3 days later. Adrian was at his usual table. He had been drinking for 2 hours. Pete was watching him the way you watch someone standing too close to the edge of something. I was working the far side of the room, close enough to observe, far enough to be invisible, and then I saw him reach into his jacket. He pulled something out and placed it on the table in front of him. He stared at it for a long time, long enough that Pete noticed too. When Adrian finally left, unsteady, jacket crooked, not looking at anyone, he forgot it on the table. Pete got to it first, picked it up to keep it safe for when Adrian came back. He was holding it out to look at it when I walked past. I stopped. It was a burned wallet, cracked leather, edges black and curled. Through the clouded plastic of the ID window, a photo, small and smoke-damaged. A young woman, smiling, a photograph taken in a booth outside a grocery store, laughing because the flash kept going off too early. The room did not spin. I want to tell you the room spun, but it didn't. Everything just went very, very still, like the whole world took a breath and held it. "Elena," Pete said, "you okay? You look." "I need to go home," I said. I told Diana everything that night, all of it, sitting on the kitchen floor at 2 in the morning, the wallet on the linoleum between us, both of us staring at it like it was something alive. When I finished talking, Diana was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Elena, if he has your photo, if he has been carrying that burned wallet for 5 years, then someone lied to him. He did not move on, he was told you were gone." I already knew it, had known it from the moment I saw that wallet. but hearing someone else say it out loud made it real in a way that cracked me open. I cried for a long time. The baby moved gently like she was trying to comfort me. Diana made tea and sat on the floor beside me and did not try to fix anything, just stayed. That was the greatest kindness anyone had shown me in 5 years. In the morning, I made a list, everything I knew, the timeline, the names, the gaps. And then I called Millbrook. Father Carl answered on the 3rd ring. He remembered me immediately, and what he told me, quietly, carefully, like he had been waiting for this call for a long time, destroyed the last corner of doubt I had been hiding in. 3 months after the fire, Father Carl said, a woman telephoned me, very composed, said she was Adrian's family. She asked me to confirm that your marriage was informal, undocumented, not legally registered. What did you tell her? I asked. I told her absolutely not. I have the certificate. It is fully registered and completely legal. She thanked me and hung up. I sat with the phone against my ear long after the call ended. So there it was, not an accident, not a tragedy, a decision. Someone had looked at my marriage, at my life, at my husband, and decided it was inconvenient, and they had taken out a pen and simply crossed us out. I was not destroyed by fate, I told Diana when I put the phone down. I was destroyed by a person, and that changes everything. She came to the bar 2 days later. I was working near the entrance when she walked in, silver hair severe, posture perfect, wearing a cream-colored coat that cost more than 3 months of my rent. She did not look at me. I was furniture to her, less than furniture. She sat with Adrian. I watched them from across the room. She slid a folder across the table. He pushed it back. She slid it again. His jaw tightened. She said something and gestured toward the door. He looked away from her and stared at his glass. She left before him. He sat alone for another hour, and for the first time I watched him not as the cruel man who had humiliated me in front of a room full of people. I watched him as someone who was also trapped, also being crushed by something he could not fully see. Pain makes people sharp and cold, I thought. I know, it almost did the same thing to me. The next morning, Diana contacted Detective Harris through a friend, a quiet man, thorough, the kind who does not make promises but keeps the ones he makes. Within 4 days, he had something. The death report filed for Adrian the night of the fire, submitted by a private physician, one with documented ties to a man named Raymond Cole, Adrian's uncle. The report had inconsistencies that a proper investigation would have caught immediately, but no one had investigated because there was no reason to. No one had been looking. Mrs. Cole, Detective Harris said, using my married name deliberately, and I felt something straighten inside me when he said it. This was not a paperwork error. Someone filed a false report, and I intend to find out exactly who authorized it. I was not surprised when she showed up outside the bar the morning after I was dismissed from my job. The manager had called me the previous evening, apologetic, uncomfortable, and told me my contract was being ended. A generous donor had raised concerns about staff safety. I knew exactly what that meant. Gloria was standing on the pavement in her cream coat, hands folded, watching me walk out with my things in a paper bag. We looked at each other. You are smarter than I expected, she said. Her voice was perfectly level. But smart does not always mean safe. I can make sure you and that child are taken care of. A good apartment, money every month, far from here, far from him. I looked at this woman who had stolen 5 years of my life and was now offering me a settlement like I was a business problem to be managed. You took my husband, I said quietly. You took a father from this baby before she was even born. You took 5 years of my life and you think I want your money. Something flickered in her eyes, not guilt, not quite, but something that knew it had been named correctly. Walk away, she said, while you still can do it on your own terms. I picked up my paper bag, no. And I walked. My hands were shaking the whole way home, but I did not stop walking. Detective Harris moved faster than any of us expected. He called Adrian's office directly that same afternoon. I only know what happened next because Adrian told me later, quietly, sitting in Diana's small kitchen, his hands wrapped around a cup of tea he never drank. Harris told him there was an active investigation into a false death report filed 5 years ago, under Adrian's name. Adrian said, "Whose death?" Harris said, "Your wife's, Elena Cole, Mr. Cole. She is alive. She has been alive this entire time." Adrian said he sat at his desk for 4 minutes without moving. His assistant knocked twice. He did not answer. He picked up his car keys and walked out of the building. He drove to the address Harris gave him. Diana opened the door, looked at him for a long moment, this tall, expensive-looking man standing on our shabby doorstep with red eyes and his collar crooked, and stepped aside without a word. I was at the kitchen table, hands around a cup of tea. I heard the footsteps and I knew before I looked up. He was standing in the kitchen doorway. 5 years, a whole lifetime of grief between us, and 6 feet of linoleum floor. He said my name, just my name, the way he used to say it in the library, like it was something worth being careful with. I said, "You kept the wallet." He said, "I kept everything." He crossed the kitchen and knelt down in front of me slowly, carefully, and placed one hand on my belly, gently, like he was afraid of breaking something. He did not say anything else, I did not either. Some reunions do not need words, they just need the courage to stay in the room. It is not loud, that is the first thing I will tell you. Karma does not arrive with thunder and drama the way stories promise. It arrives quietly through paperwork and phone calls and courtroom dates. Detective Harris filed charges. Gloria Cole and Raymond Cole were formally arrested for filing false legal documentation and conspiracy to commit fraud. Raymond's financial crimes against the Cole Company, years of careful theft, were uncovered in the same investigation. Gloria's world did not explode, it simply deflated. Her social circle quietly evaporated. Her name disappeared from invitation lists. She sat in a courtroom in her cream coat and looked straight ahead and said nothing. Nadia released a brief statement ending her relationship with Adrian and moved to another city. I do not think she was purely evil. I think she made choices she understood clearly. I hope she found something more honest to build her life on. The company board restructured. Adrian did not lose everything, but he lost the illusion that the people around him were safe. He rebuilt slowly, more carefully. Pete became bar manager. He cried when they told him and then immediately denied crying. I was there. He absolutely cried. Father Carl flew in when the baby came. He held her in the hospital room with the same hands that had married Adrian and me in that little church with the crooked steeple. Diana stood beside me and pretended she was not crying either. She was also crying. We named her Clara. I look at Adrian sometimes, when he is sitting with Clara, when he is being patient and soft with her in a way that surprised everyone who only knew the bar version of him, and I think about what Gloria said. I did what was necessary. She believed that fully. She looked at my small life and my small love and decided it was an obstacle, and she removed it. What she never understood, what people like her never understand, is that love is not an obstacle. It is the only thing that was ever actually holding him together. Without it, he became exactly the man she deserved to have as a son. Cold, sharp, empty. She thought she was protecting him. She was only breaking him in a way that took 5 years and a pregnant janitor with a mop to begin to repair. Fate is just slow, I told Diana once. It takes its time untangling what people twisted with greed and fear, but when it finally straightens everything out, it does it completely. I used to be angry about the 5 years. Some nights I still am. I look at Clara and think about the first ultrasound Adrian missed, the pregnancy alone, the nights on kitchen floors in cities where no one knew my name. But then he walks into the room and he sees me, really sees me the way he always did, the way no one else ever has. And I think we found each other, through a fire, through 5 years of lies, through a rooftop bar where he was cruel and I was invisible and we were standing 10 feet apart without knowing it. We found each other. That has to mean something. I have decided it means everything. My name is Elena Cole. This is my story. And it is only just beginning. If this story reached something inside you, if it made your chest tight or your eyes wet, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you believe that truth always finds its way home no matter how deeply someone buries it, subscribe. I will see you in the next one.